Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Gohan, the fighter who surpassed Goku. I didn't even know that was the subtitle until I just read it. Did he? At one point, but then they were like, yeah, you know what? We're not going to make Gohan the main character. Goku's just going to keep doing it. But hey, whatever. Let me know. Let's do a question of the day. Gohan or Goku? Which do you prefer? For me, I was all about Gohan until they turned him into a big fat weenie. And then it was like, okay, well, I have no choice. I'm back to Piccolo. No, seriously, it was Goku of the two, but then Piccolo. Okay, so, brand new figure. Lots of new stuff going on here. Lots of hype, lots of interest. I know a lot of people have mentioned this is the best thing since sliced bread. Other people were like, yeah, I don't think I like it or bread. So, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to see what we think by the end of the review. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. It is a nice package. I like the coloring. Oftentimes we see them use the color of the figure, like the purple here in the background. This time it's a different color. It's a fuchsia, which makes everything pop lovely, just lovely. It pops wonderfully. It is lovely. It looks great with the figure in there. So if you are an inbox collector on card, you could definitely do it and be happy with this one. It's one of the best looking ones they've released, just with the composition with that color. Photo here is nice. Photo here and here is okay. It's a little weird from the front since it's only his hands, but still not bad. And then these are decent. I don't know why they wanted to show his foot off. They're like, we did new articulation, take a look at that. And then on the back, it's fine. I think I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of the figure. Those are very tiny photos with a whole lot of generic gray background. But again, who probably cares? I'm guessing very few people. Okay, so there's the box, decent box. And now, let's talk about the figure. He's tiny. He's tiny. He stands only to the top of his head, about 4¼ inches, including the hair a little bit over 5. That's going to make him just about, we'll say 11 centimeters, and then closer to 13. Here he is up against Uncle Darwin. He is tiny. All right, so there he is with Darwin, a McFarlane Batman. So obviously way out of scale there, and then even more way out of scale. Although realistically, because he's Gohan, he could fit, I don't know, but there he is against a Marvel Select cap. Alright, so we did a question of the day. I will mention this guy is in stock right now at Big Bad Toy Store. There is a link in the description below. Check it out if you want to get one. They are my most trusted online collectible retailer of all of them. I love them. Their customer service is second to none other than Amazon, but that doesn't really count because that Amazon is just like basically doing whatever you tell them no matter what if you're a Prime member. But Big Bad Toy Store is just shy of that. They're pretty dang good. Alright, we'll do another question of the day. Soft goods or no? Are you guys in favor of this in general? Not this specific figure, because we're going to get into the good and bad of this in just a minute. But for me, I don't mind it. I don't mind when it's used sparingly like this, especially on a cape. I think it has lots of potential, so that's fine with me. I'm okay with this, like the Gambit from Mafex, that's fine, things like that. No problem at all. Alright, so let me know what you guys think. Alright, now we're going to get into the aesthetic of this figure, and I want to start with the cape so that we can end on a good note. Alright, so we'll get into the posability of the cape in a minute once we do the articulation part of the review, but for now I want to talk about the looks. And I have to say, it looks like a custom piece, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean like a custom piece where the people don't have the right tools to be making the thing. At first I saw it, I was like, okay, they did a really good job. It's 2-ply, they folded it over, there's a really nice seam, a nice hem, everything is super clean. That's good, that's wonderful, it's a nice tight material. Fine. They didn't use any stretchy material, which is a little bit concerning. Like, there's really no give to it, so that's a little bit concerning for posability, but here's what I noticed. I don't know how well, yeah, I think you can see it. You can see the glue that they used. Some sort of adhesive, you can see a big splotch of it right there coming through, but then, I don't know how well it's showing on camera, but you can see it all the way down, and it really looks bad. And I have no idea how well that's showing up. I hope you can see it. It looks really bad. Look at that. That line right there is glue showing through. It's not like shading or anything. It's not uniform. Maybe from this angle you can see this better. It's just, it looks really, really crappy. Really cheap. It looks horrible. It's probably not even focusing, I don't know. Yeah, that looks terrible, so that's unfortunate. I don't care that it's cloth. The cloth part doesn't look bad at all, like it's not even super noticeable. They had a good idea on paper, but the way they executed looks like butts. Big, hairy, fat butts. So that's not good. This part being plastic looks okay. You do have to really scrunch his head down on top of it, so that'll get in the way for posing, but whatever. Okay, so you saw the cape. Nice material, I guess, other than there's no stretch to it. We'll get to that. But yeah, that glue is just rough. Let's talk about the rest of the figure in the aesthetic, because there's a lot of really good stuff going on here and some not so good. All right, first off, the proportioning I love. Whoops, he's tiny. The proportioning is really, really good. It feels like OG Dragon Ball to me. I love it. I love it. A lot of the times the figures they make look a little different than they probably should. They don't quite have that feel. And to me, this does. This feels like classic Dragon Ball a lot. Love it, love it, love it. Things I don't love, these hip flaps are just getting out of control with the Dragon Ball line. It's nuts. Those hip flaps are huge. You can see the gap in there. They aren't anywhere close to flush, and they should be. With pants like this would be completely, like, it would be right up against the skin right here, because it's just hanging flat against the thigh. So that looks terrible. And here's the thing. There's no, look at this guy. He has no wrinkles or anything to hide it, and his are very, very seamless. There's almost no gap, like there isn't really over here. There's some from the way it's been posed, but you can get it pretty flush. And that's still too much if you ask me. There's no need for it, but that's way better than that. Look at that. It looks horrible in comparison, so I hate that. I don't like what they're doing with the hip gaps, the thigh flaps. The only way to make them flush is to do that, which is like, okay, but I don't really want my figure just standing like that. So it's not a problem once you pose him, but in any sort of neutral hero pose, these hip flaps are bad. I like the sculpt of the pants. I like the sculpt of the outfit. There's shading throughout the purple. That looks pretty nice. Looks pretty solid. He's got the paler skin, which I think suits him. He's got the paler yellow hair. It's actually not flat though. It's not metallic and it's not flat. It's a little bit of a satin finish. I don't know about that. The yellow shading in there, slightly darker yellow. It looks okay. I don't think this is the best looking hair they've done for Super Saiyan, but I get what they're going for this version of Gohan, so I'm okay with it. The blue things don't quite match in color. Honestly, I didn't think to check that. That could be a thing, it could not. I don't know. I don't remember him having very similar but different colors there, but who knows. And then the shoes, it's a good sculpt, but there's no paint on them, so they look really cheap. There should at least be those black lines or something, because it's kind of a transparent brown plastic, so it looks a little bit cheap, but good sculpt. So yeah, not bad overall. Few weird problems here and there, but I think it's a solid looking figure. I'd like to see a little shading on the skin, I guess, but it's not a huge deal. He's a little shiny, but it's not overly noticeable, overly problematic. The chest is plastic rather than paint, so it matches better, so that's a good thing. Yeah, it's a pretty solid look. Is he cross-eyed? It's hard to say with anime eyes. This is borderline cross-eyed. I think it's okay if you lean him forward. He just looks angry, but if you go like that, he starts to look really cross-eyed. So, yeah, pretty solid look. I'm going to give him an aesthetic rating of... I want to go 9, but because of the cape, since the cape is like the big draw for this release, or at least one of them, that glue being all over it looks like trash. So I'm going to just go 8. Still a good looking figure. Alright, now as far as accessories go, we get 2 different heads. We get the head with the neutral hair, and then one where it's a little bit like windswept. That's awesome. As far as faces go, we get the neutral face that comes on him in the package. You get an angry face, a surprised face, an even more angry face, and then a yelling face. They all look pretty darn good. I think that's good enough. I don't know about the sculpt. Is it perfect for Gohan? Maybe not, but they still look really solid. And then for hands, you get the usual spread of decent hands, and that is it. That's awesome. Good spread, no effect part, no flight stand or anything like that, so that could be better, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm going to give him an accessory rating of 8 out of 10. Extra headpiece is pretty awesome. The cape, despite its flaws, I guess that kind of counts, so that's pretty good too. Now it's time to talk about the articulation. That's a big feature for these figures, so let's see how they did. The first thing I want to note is a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is double ball peg. Small balls, decent sized peg, but solid range. The way they did it is pretty good. Because the balls are pretty small, they have to be pretty shallow in the plastic to get the range, and they do have the range, that's fine, but as a result, he's a little floppy in the head. It's not quite as tight as it could be. I don't think it's going to be a real problem. Just a slight nuisance as you're posing him. You might bump it, and it's just really easy for him to just look down like that. But still works pretty well. The neck is also on a ball peg, so you can just move his head around however you want, and that is pretty good. I like that. The cape being on there, it basically zero range in the head and neck once the cape is on, but with it off, it is solid. Now the shoulders, they look pretty good from here. He does have the softer gi over his chest like the more recent figures that haven't worked out very well, actually. And unfortunately, I'd say this guy's a good example of over-engineering because he's got combo joints in there with different ball pegs and sockets to let the whole thing move around. But he doesn't actually get anywhere with it, not too much. So the arm doesn't really come too far forward, unfortunately. Across the chest, there's very little range. A lot of kibble going on in there. Not a huge deal, but even something as simple as raising the arm up, yeah, it's pretty limited for no real reason. You still would just achieve so much more with a ball hinge stuck in a swivel. This whole piece right here, basically this purple piece, should be connected to the body at an angle so that it rotates to bring the arm across the chest or up. It would work so much better. They do it in their model kits sometimes. But this isn't like the worst thing in the world, and it's not horribly ugly or anything, but it's just not super functional, and it's really overly designed. That ball peg in there is good for adjustment posing, don't get me wrong, but it's not a super functional butterfly in any way. It's really just for adjustment posing. Alright, bicep swivel is nice, double jointed elbows look nice and have really good range. That's a good thing. Little ball hinges in the wrist, that's standard. Torso articulation, I can't tell for sure if there's something in there. There might be, but if there is, it doesn't really move. You're gonna get it all down here, all the functional range. This, by the way, hate this. I'll show you. It's connected. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. Let it move freely. Having it connected means it ends up having gaps in places we don't want. But this purple piece right here, this big tube, it leans forward and back and side to side. I can't tell for sure if it's on a ball peg. You see those little purple tabs on either side of it? I think those might be just like locators to keep everything kind of in place and it's still on a ball peg, or it's on a hinge and it's just hard for me to say. I can't tell you because I can't take it apart. But it's functional enough, I guess. But you'll see as I move it, this crotch piece is soft, which is a new thing for them, or at least a newer thing for them, and good in theory. But as you're posing this guy, because the belt is connected, as soon as you lean him back, you see right into his junk. Not his junk, his engineering junk. Leaning forward works okay, but it's still pretty limited range, and it gets really gappy right away. I don't know why Bandai has lately been just over-engineering the crap out of things. It's functional enough, but that's not acceptable. You have to pull it down and then he's not leaning all the way. It's weird. Side to side works really well. Of course, you get your rotation. If this was a floating piece and this was just a standard double ball peg in here, way better. It'd be easier to use and it wouldn't get gappy. So it looks really good, but you're going to have to be careful in how you pose it, because if they're going to do it this way, this piece right here, this top part should have gone up higher to hide gaps. There's plenty of room for it and it's soft, so there's no reason it couldn't go higher to hide all those gaps. So it's weird. It's like they're just trying to add joints and add complexity when they really don't need it. Simple ball peg would have been way better. Double ball peg. All right, for the hips, bringing the leg forward, kicks nice. Really, really nice. I love that. That helps because this is a soft piece, so that's good. And then going back, it's a soft piece, so it flexes a little bit. I'd still prefer to not have the butt cheeks on the crotch piece, but it's fairly functional. I mean, it's still okay. Gets pretty weird looking, but it's all right. And then bringing the legs out to the side. If you don't try anything, it's just going to kind of crush that soft crotch. So let's see if we can tuck them under on both sides. Yeah, you can. So when you do that, you get really good range, though he has these weird crotch nuggets. That's what those are called. That's the official term. And I don't know that that's necessary. Let me show you this guy, who actually has pretty crap articulation. So in terms of actual functionality, the range is pretty close. It's not quite there, but he doesn't have any crotch nuggets at all. And the difference is not that much. So I think they could have easily reduced the amount of nugget in Gohan's crotch right there, because that's a weird looking thing right there. But good range, especially from the front. His nuggets hang down. I'm gonna probably get this video kicked off of YouTube for saying crotch nuggets so many times. Should we make that a phrase from now on? Don't know. Thigh swivel is there. It's pretty stiff. It's weird that it's stiff, but it's functional. It's fine. Don't like their whole setup here still. All right, double jointed knee. Works well enough. Definitely not the best thing we've seen, but definitely not the worst. It's perfectly fine. And then for the ankle, we have what would be a good ankle on paper, but I'm guessing they didn't try it out too much, because you get crap range. Really bad range on that. Put a bigger ball in there. Why'd you use the smallest one ever? That ball hinge is tiny. You get an ankle rocker, which I like. That's super useful. And you get a rotation if you want that. That's not super useful, but it's there. The toe hinge is a decent one. They're still not great on this line. It's kind of loose, and it has that ridge in it. But the ankle itself is really not good. It's not, like, this would work if the ball hinge had a ball up here so that you could shift it back or forward, but you can't. You just get this crappy range. Poorly implemented. Decent on paper. Same thing with the arms. Same thing with the torso. They have some weird stuff going on here, which is not the worst thing in the world, but certainly feels like they didn't go through product testing the way it should have. I don't know if I can get this to change. It looks like the sleeves on one side is a different, the sleeve on one side is a different shape all the way around. I'll have to mess with that. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it's okay. This one sleeve flares up and this one comes down more. So it's kind of weird look. Anyway, okay, articulation on this guy. Oh, we have to talk about the cape. So here's the cape. Decent in a neutral pose. And I noticed a thing in the photos. They basically showed it like this or with the whole thing going up. Not exactly like that, but with the cape flying up in the back. Okay, fine. What about in between? Well, you can do it, of course. The wiring is decent. It doesn't connect to the plastic really anywhere. It just hangs in here. So the wiring works well enough though, but the cloth doesn't stretch and there's no flow to this cape. There's no wrinkling at all. So that's maximum capacity. There's no, like if they had wrinkles in it at this size, then you could make it like go wider and flow more, but it's going to be very stiff looking. It's not supposed to be a huge cape, but because of the material and the amount of wire, which is good for a neutral pose, they just needed more material in order to make it really useful, because it's going to get super limited. I mean, you're going to be able to do enough, I think, but it could have been a lot better with stretchier material or more material, especially once it's on the figure. You'll see it feels quite restrictive as opposed to something that's going to be fun to pose around. So you really have to wedge his head on there, okay. And then it's not going to be the best. It'll do. But I would definitely like to see more material and a little bit of stretch. A little bit of spandex in that would be pretty good. It's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I think it's another thing where it's just kind of half cooked. So, alright, articulation on this guy, I'm gonna only give it, I think you'll be able to get the posing you need to do done, but as far, like from an engineering standpoint, it's not anywhere near as good as it should be, I think. So I'm gonna stick with, I don't know, 7 or 8, I guess. It'll pose, but I think it could pose a lot better and have better engineering if they spent a little more time with it. Okay, so now it's time for the final verdict. Is this the best new figure that they've ever released? It has the soft goods cape with the wire and new engineering and soft parts and things. On paper, yes. Even their idea is not bad, but definitely fell through in the execution aspect. It's not bad by any means, but it's definitely not as good as I think it could have been. Easily, in fact. The couple weird things in the hips, the shoulders, the ankles, even the cape, it's all slightly weird. And I think you'll get what I'm saying if you own this figure. And then having the cape have the glue all over it, I mean, it's on the inside, but you can still see it, so like it's pushed through the fabric. I'm gonna say this is only a 7 out of 10. It's, you could say 8, you could argue 8, but I don't know, making the cape look like a custom thing, that's kind of just, that's Bush League. That's not good. I shouldn't be able to see the adhesive through the material. So yeah, I'll stick with 7 for me as a reviewer. As a collector, I'd probably say 8 personally, but there's too many problems with it. Let me know what you guys think though, it's kind of curious. It's like an halfway awesome figure and then halfway like what the heck were they thinking sort of figure. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but that's it for me. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos just about every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.